So quite a few of you asked in our Redmi Note 10 Pro Max review to compare it against the Mi 10i. Well, here we are. Hey guys, Omar here from C4E Tech, and if you love the fact that we read and try to at least reply to every comment of yours, then show us some love. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. It really does help us out. Now, I get why a lot of you wanted this comparison. On paper, the specs are pretty similar, and these devices, they're priced close together as well. So which one should you pick? Well, the answer isn't quite as simple. But hey, we have to start somewhere, so let's begin with what the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max has going for it.
It's right up front. This display might be the same size and refresh rate as the one on the Mi 10i, but it's got one big ace up its sleeve. It's a Super AMOLED panel, so punchier colors and truer blacks, something the LCD can never manage. Now 2020 had us choosing between high refresh rate LCDs or 60Hz AMOLED panels, but this time the Note 10 Pro Max comes with a 120Hz AMOLED panel, so this one's a no-brainer. The Note 10 Pro Max also gets a leg up on the battery department. It's just 5% or 200 mAh larger, but the combination of a less powerful chip along with an AMOLED panel means that the Redmi slightly edges out the Mi when it comes to battery life. To be fair, the Mi 10i does come with adaptive refresh rate, so it can switch from 30 all the way to 120 depending on the type of content being displayed on it. Basically, the 4820 mAh unit inside the Mi 10i should have no problems getting you through a regular day. Charging is one of the many areas where both these phones tie. They both max out at 33 watts. But thanks to the smaller battery size, the Mi 10i can go from 0 to 100 within an hour, while the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max takes a bit more.
Okay, so the last point, not really an advantage, but the next few certainly are. Let's start with the processor, for example. The Snapdragon 750G, quite a big step up from the 732G. After all, numbers don't lie.
In general day-to-day usage though, the Note 10 Pro Max felt just as smooth as the Mi 10i. So both these 8nm chips seem to be capable of pushing 120 frames per second, at least when it comes to general UI interactions. Open up a game though and the more powerful Adreno 619 GPU starts showing its strength. We tried Call of Duty at the high graphics preset and the max frame rate setting, and as expected, the Adreno 619 beat out the 618 inside the Note 10 Pro Max. Despite both phones sporting a 120Hz screen, the Mi 10i felt a lot more smoother, so gamers, that's something to keep in mind. The storage combos though are nothing special, but since we're doing an in-depth comparison, I have put them up on screen for your viewing pleasure. Couple of things to keep in mind: Mi 10i has a hybrid SIM slot, while the Note 10 Pro Max comes with a dedicated microSD card. On the flip side, the Mi 10i comes with 128 gigs of UFS 2.2 storage as base, while on the Note 10 Pro Max, it starts from 64 gigabytes. So pretty much even Stevens here. And no matter if you get 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, memory management, at the end of the day, it boils down to MIUI.
Yes, since this is Redmi and the other one is a Mi, both are running on MIUI. So software-wise, they're identical, except for one critical difference: the ads. Now, since Mi is the premium brand here, it shouldn't have OS level ads. And honestly, in the time I spent with the device, I didn't see any either.
To be fair, the recommended apps are still there, and those pop up especially while using Xiaomi's own apps. But even then, the experience here is much better than the Note 10 Pro Max. It might be the same core experience, but MIUI 12 with ads kind of takes the polished look out of it and reduces it to a cheap iOS imitation.
So that's a pretty big win for the Mi 10i, but can it notch up another victory before we head into the optics? Well, before we go there, let's take a look at the extra bits and bobs.
Both have that now elusive IR blaster up top along with a secondary noise cancelling mic. In fact, build-wise both of them are pretty similar. The fingerprint scanner is integrated into the power button, just as snappy as you would expect. The button placements are similar, both come with dual speakers and a headphone jack. But personally, I prefer the ones on the Note 10 Pro Max. It has a tiny bit more volume through the speakers, and I prefer my headphone jack at the top of the device. Anyway, placements are kind of like design, so we'll leave it up to you guys. If you ask me though, I prefer the lighter and slimmer Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. I also like the frosted look to the back of it. And IP53 offers some protection against the elements. Now both phones share the same glass sandwich design. There's even Corning Gorilla Glass 5 to the front. But the Mi 10i gets Gorilla Glass 5 to the back as well, but loses out on the IP rating. Basically, that's the deal here. You win some, you lose some. Like with the camera bumps. I prefer the look on the Note 10 Pro Max, but there's less wobble with the Mi 10 5G.
But hey, since we're talking about bumps, let's bring cameras into the mix.
So the reason why I left it so late is because, like so many other things, the optics too are very similar. Both share the same 108 megapixel sensor from Samsung. And as expected from the HM2, pictures in bright light come out looking great. There are some differences in color temperature, but other than that, sharpness, dynamic range, we couldn't really tell them apart. That remained the same even after switching to the 108 megapixel mode. When it came to night samples though, the Mi 10i consistently came out with brighter images. Not necessarily higher details, but brighter. I really didn't think that f1.75 versus f1.9 would make such a big difference. See, even the ISOs here are quite similar. But hey, if the differences in the main sensor were hard to spot, then it becomes almost impossible with the ultra-wide. Both have 8 megapixel snappers with f2.2 aperture. As for the other two sensors, they're the regular depth and macro cameras. Okay, not quite. The macro sensor on the Note 10 Pro Max is actually quite impressive. It's a 5 megapixel affair and as such leaves the snaps from the 2 megapixel macro on the Mi 10i in the dust. Better colors, sharper pictures, and thanks to autofocus, it's easier to nail the shots on the Redmi. But don't for a minute think that the similarities have ended. In fact, take the selfies next. Again, we have 16 megapixel f2.5 snappers. As usual, there's a tendency to overexpose the background. But I prefer the natural colors on the Mi 10i here. For some reason, the Note 10 Pro Max at times gets skin tones wrong. On the video side of things, both phones max out at 4K 30fps. And here's a look at the camera app. Same UI, even the same features. So cameras here are on the same plane. The Note 10 Pro Max is an advantage with macro photography, while the Mi 10i takes better low light pictures.
Okay, so we have seen a lot of back and forth here, which basically brings us back to our original question. Which one should we pick? But hey, before we get to that, let's have a quick recap. So first, AMOLED, that's a point for the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. 5G and better gaming, those are 2 points for the Mi 10i. But again, the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max hits back with better battery life. The Mi 10i takes the next 2 points, though that's for ads, actually having no ads, as well as having better night shots. The Redmi Note 10 Pro Max hits right back with the better macro camera. And again, it also has the IP53 rating. But on the build side of things, the Mi 10i takes the last point with Gorilla Glass 5 to its back. So basically, where does this leave us? 5 yeses for the Mi 10i versus 4 for the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. So that's it there, cut and dry, right? Not quite, because price is a very important factor. And the Note 10 Pro Max begins at 18,999, so basically 19K. That's 2,000 rupees lesser than the Mi 10i. So I know what a lot of you may be thinking. 2,000 rupees more for 5G as well as no ads? That's a good deal, right? But hey, do keep in mind that you're leaving that sweet AMOLED goodness as well as IP53 rating on the table. So yeah, this one's a tough choice. And I know some of you may still be on the fence after having seen through the whole video. For them, I really suggest going through the comments and speaking to people who have owned either the Mi or the Redmi. And hey, 30 Squad, that's where you guys come in. Please do share your experiences in the comments down below. And that's all from me for this comparison. As always, like, share, subscribe, and hey, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot for sticking around till the end. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.